Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where frontline sales leaders teach you how to build and scale an outbound sales team. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your co-host, Collin Stewart. Today, I'm joined by somebody who is just tired of everybody else talking about account-based everything and wants to provide us with a practical guide based on what she's learned building and rebuilding her team around the account-based methodology 3 different times. Allow me to introduce Kim Brown. Nice to meet you, Kim. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Collin. Absolutely.
One thing I forgot to mention, now when we met, you were the sales development manager at Catavolt, which is now part of the Hexagon group of companies. But since then, there's sort of an interesting theme going on here. You're actually the sales development and marketing manager. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I started at Catavolt, I joined as a team lead. I'd been a manager, a sales development manager at my last job. And I was quickly, Kevin O'Malley at Sales Loft, he's one of their marketing VPs. He taught me account-based. And so I've taken the reins shortly after I started 2.5 years ago. And then just in the last few months, we've made such an impact on being the bridge between marketing and sales that now I'm overseeing a lot of our marketing and go-to-market strategy. So I am directly affecting and guiding all of our content creation, from blogs to what new videos and white papers get written. It's very exciting.
How do you feel about this sort of the field of sort of sales development and marketing starting to mesh a little bit more here?
It's amazing. Having worked at a few other companies in a similar role, sales development is the bridge between sales and marketing. And sometimes they report to sales, sometimes they report to marketing. And there's so much tension. Marketing wants their leads to be worked, and sales wants better leads, and how to get those things to mesh. And then when marketing writes content that no one in sales uses, marketing gets frustrated. And when sales gets new content from marketing that isn't good or isn't what they wanted, these gaps get bigger. Yeah. And so just because our department in sales development has been so successful, it started out like us giving feedback to our marketing team as a partner and as a team. And if we can work together, if we can help you strategize on the right content, then we will use it. And then we start to see the return on investment of those things. All about communication, really good communication and working together. And then as we've done company restructures and realigning, that success has just been seen. And so now it's not just us giving feedback and suggestions on the content, but now we actually say what the content is. And now I have content people on my team that make what I'm asking for. So it's just grown and built, and it's been great.
I imagine the iteration cycles are much tighter, much quicker now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're so agile, and we can make pivots, and we've learned that this is now more important. So what's on our schedule for the next quarter, we can actually set it aside because we now know that we actually need to work on this, and this is what's going to bring us the dollars faster. So it's great.
Right on. So today we're going to talk about a little bit about some lessons learned, sort of rebuilding your account-based sales development team a couple times now. You've got some slides for us here.
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen.
All right. So for those that are listening audio only, you can check out the show notes. There'll be a link to Google Slides in here where you can see it. You can follow along if you want, or just use it as a reference later on.
Cool. Can you see this okay? I should say Catavolt.
Yeah, good to go.
Perfect. So what we did here, this is just a quick summary of our most recent revision. So I don't know if it might make more sense to give more of a history before I dive into this. What do you think, Collin?
Yeah, why don't you start with sort of where your first sort of, because you've gone through 3 revisions. So why don't we start with, with the history here?
Yeah. So some history. when I started, I mentioned this, Kevin O'Malley, he's a really great thought leader on account-based everything. So he was my direct boss when I learned about account-based, and he inducted me into this new way of thinking of the magic of account-based. And he had set up this initial model that was good. It was the first step. It was a great step forward from what it had been before. When we started, it was, we sell to mostly Catavolt. We sold to mostly manufacturers, construction and aggregate and mining companies, the underserved in the industrial world. And if anyone's listening to the podcast that works in those areas, please check out what we do. Love to talk to you. But when we had success in this area, and when reps would go to prospect, they didn't have a model. It would be whatever inbound came in, and then they'd be driving down the street, and oh, there's a dump truck. I wonder who makes dump trucks. And I'm going to go look up companies that make dump trucks today, because we sold to someone that made another kind of truck at one time, so that maybe that'll work today. And then the next day, oh, I drove by some trash cans. I wonder who makes trash cans. And each rep kind of doing this on their own. So not a lot of thought into it. And it was a little frustrating not seeing the return on investment for the dollars that we're investing in our reps. And so Kevin brought in this model where, okay, let's go after some targeted sub-verticals of manufacturing. We're going to pivot there. There was a company decision being made we'd been prospecting into some healthcare and some other kind of more general construction areas. So, okay, we're only going to go after manufacturing now. And so we picked 3 different sub areas of manufacturing with certain revenue thresholds. So we'd have about 300 companies, or what we call accounts, for each rep that were in either fabricated metal manufacturing, transportation manufacturing, or machinery manufacturing. They were all above basically about $500 million in revenue. That was our threshold in the beginning. And that was working for us. Then I took over the reins of sales development, and I had a lot of success at my previous company where we didn't have nearly as many sales tools or strategy. We sold into government and education, also an equally hard area to sell into, similar to manufacturing and construction. But we had this whole plethora of sales tools on how we began to form account-based, and we still weren't seeing the same return on investment. So we made a revision 2, where this is where we went wide. We added, for a couple of quarters, we added about like 6 new sub-verticals of manufacturing. And there was some thought into that. We had customers that were in these spaces. So we had those 3: transportation, machinery, and fabricated metal manufacturers. And so we added pharmaceutical manufacturing and food and bev manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, all sub-verticals, because we had at least a handful of customers in each spot. But we kept the same revenue thresholds. And so we did that. We had some success on what we call sales accepted leads. That's the primary goal of my team. But we weren't seeing a quick to pipeline conversion, and we weren't seeing the same fast conversions from SALs as we were for new logos. And that's been a historical problem for our company, or a challenge, if you will, that we've been dealing with and learning how to overcome with each cycle. Is the reality is we sell to enterprise level accounts. We sell to your Fortune 1000 manufacturers, large companies we're a software company that doesn't sell into IT. We need IT's buy-in, but they're not who will come up with the ROI use case. So we sell to people that aren't paid to talk to us on the phone, that aren't paid to find a new software solution. And it's really hard. Our average sales cycle is 12 to 24 months. And when we're paying out on these SALs that are converting really quickly, these sales accepted leads, but we're not seeing that return for 12 plus months, it was becoming a huge problem. So that kind of quickly hits the first and second revisions. We about 9 months ago started a big data mining. We started to review our last 3 years of business. What new accounts had we actually closed into that didn't have any high-level corporate buy-in help from us? None of our C-level people helped close it or find it. It was all sales development driven. What titles had actually created pipeline and actually closed business? What subverticals of those manufacturers we'd added? We're about like at 11 at this point, subverticals of manufacturing. Where had most of our pipeline come from? Where had our closed one come from? And who are the quickest to sell to? Where do we have the best conversion rates? What was actually going from sales accepted lead to opportunity? And then what was actually going to closed one for the last 3 years? And then we looked at the rest of our business as well, beyond just what's in sales development. What was the average op creation and op close time frame? If we need to close faster than 12 months, what areas are doing that today? Just your basic business review, but we spend a couple months going through this, and I would do a cut of the data, and I would meet with our high-level company leadership, our CEO and our VP of sales, and okay, this is good, but we need to know even more. This subsegment that you found us, we need to know this, and this kind of led us to our third revision of, we just want to see where all the data lies, and we're hoping that we're going to come up with the right place to end up. And that's what kind of leads to this slide, target alignment. Before I kind of jump into this, Collin, is there anything that I could get more specific on or show greater detail to?
Yeah, so maybe just to frame it up, the 3 steps here. Initially, you started with basically your SDRs were driving around looking and seeing like garbage cans, garbage trucks, and they're like, oh, where was that made? So there wasn't really any limits on it as long as the company was a certain size. Yeah. And fell roughly in sort of an industry vertical.
Yeah.
And then the second step was, okay, well, that's a bit crazy. That's too wide open. Let's drill down onto, bring the threshold down. Sorry.
Yeah. So we actually got wide, and we had initially with those 3 that we chose, those 3 subverticals of manufacturing, we were only at 500,000 in revenue. Mm-hmm. And then as we added those other subverticals, we went wide. We also lowered the revenue threshold. And there's a big difference in, everyone wants to sell to big companies. Everyone wants to sell to companies with money, but we began to theorize that maybe we have a hard time selling into some of these because they are big companies. So we lowered those thresholds to like 250 million in the second revision as we were adding some more of those subverticals. So let's go after some smaller companies, and let's go after more targeted areas.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And then in the third revision, you went for, what happened there?
Yeah, so that's what led us to this target alignment slide. So we spent 2 months mining data, and what we found is that while we were going after about 11, 12 different subverticals of manufacturing, only like 5 of them made up 80% of the pipeline creation and 80% of our new revenue. And so that means that we'd been spending our resources in 11 or 12 areas, and only 5 of them were producing the majority of our pipeline. And so those other, 7 or so subverticals made up 20%. And then those 5, then I started drilling down to those 5 that I saw and where our pipeline was coming from. And I realized that those were the same 5 across all of our new logos that we'd closed. The new logos that had been closed, not just in our SDR team sourced ops, but also in sourced ops from our executive team as well. Mm-hmm. And all of our open pipeline that was the strongest, had the best commit rate on it. We're all in these 5 verticals. And we're so less than half of our effort was making up 80% of our pipeline and 80% of our success. We're like, okay, wow, this is actually a huge problem. What if we were to spend 100% of our efforts instead of less than half on these areas? And I still stand behind our decision to add more subverticals. Because at the beginning we were just guessing. We picked 3, we were guessing. And initially we're like, well, we need more. That's the key to win. We need more subverticals. And it was the decision that we made at the time, and I stand by it. But then looking back at the data, I'm like, wow, we really need to get tight. I remember in the middle of us adding, I'd go to sales conferences and I'd see other people. Everyone's been talking about account-based everything for a couple of years now. It's been a hot trending topic, but I haven't seen anyone actually doing it for longer term, or really talking about how do you find your accounts? How do you do this? And we needed help, and we've had to really figure it out on our own. Just take bull by the horns and go for it, because that's what it was going to take for us to win. Like, I believe in account-based. Reality for us is if you have target types of companies that you want to go after, that is where you will win. It's as simple as that. It's being very strategic. So we saw those 5 areas were really where the money was. And so we reframed our entire account-based model to specialize where we won. As we looked at those 5 areas, we looked at who our current customer base was, and those were the top areas where our customers fell in as well. What are the industries that the people that buy and continue to buy, they were also in these 5 areas. So we realigned everything. So we want to specialize where we win. And we wanted to be able to reference sell. We figured that was going to be a really big key into getting the close rate to happen faster. We'd seen our AE referrals also increase in this big 2 months of data mining, that AE referrals between accounts, cross referrals in industry were also on the rise over the last year. And so what if we bring in the idea of referral selling into our account-based model with our SDRs, and we align that with where we've been winning the fastest and the most. It's pretty simple, but
pretty simple. You're glossing over it's it might be simple to you in simple words, but can you maybe elaborate on what you mean by just sort of sprinkling in some referral selling there?
Yeah, well, we literally, with this Thirdrate Vision, we changed our entire pitch to include. So I can cut through. I'll actually go to. This is one of our battle cards. These are not actually some of our customers, but they are. They represent some similar companies, real names of companies. And so this is one of our battle cards for our transportation section. We've had a lot of success with trailer manufacturers and aerospace companies in the transportation space. So this is a battle card that my SDR that focuses 100% on transportation and aerospace uses. And we changed our entire pitch to be, I work with other transportation manufacturers, such as Mickey Mouse helicopters and Daisy Duck camper trailers. Actually name dropping in the beginning. And these represent real companies that the companies on our account lists actually recognize because they are exactly aligned. We went and found the exact companies like these. And so we've got some great tools that allow us to, I would go and find, okay, what is the NAICS code or the SIC code? Everyone kind of uses a few different coding systems. Where did they sit? Okay, who are the other companies that are coded and listed the exact same way? Oh, wow, there are 200 that are coded the exact same way as this guy. I'm going to go call all of them, and I'm going to tell them that I work with everyone that does what they do. So I have all of our customers that use our top use case here, which is one of our quality vinyl inspection apps. And I've got what those customers did. And I've got the pain points of what our apps solved. And here's a really thorough breakdown of that use case when I can get deeper in our conversation. And these are the titles. These primary titles are the actual top titles that have closed business with us for this use case. And then these titles here, supplementary titles, are the titles that we've created pipeline with but didn't close for this use case. So when we go in and aligned, we've rebuilt our account-based lists off of the exact like companies based off of the U.S. Census Bureau's coding system to find who makes what they make. And then who did we win with and who did we almost win with? I'm going to go after those companies, talk to the people that we actually have worked with just like them, tell them that we worked with them, and sell them what we made for them. Yeah.
Very cool. That looks like you must have spent a ton of time on this.
A lot of time.
Yeah. And I imagine even to getting to the state where you can say, okay, I know who these 200 companies are to build this specific battle card.
Yeah.
That's a ton of work.
Yeah. I mean, you can see here, we also included like, what's the top content that you should be using when you talk to these people and sending in emails at page 2. One of my rock star reps, he just got promoted and moved on to another company. And so we have, this is a new revision I've added. And this is his top titles to win and his top pitches to win. I've added that to the battle card because they're fantastic. And he was killing it more than anybody else by almost double. So. Sorry,
what do you mean? You've got the primary titles and the secondary titles on the right-hand side.
And then this is titles that our former rep, Steven, has dubbed, these are who you should prospect after. And he helped me build this battle card and tailor it down to what would basically 2x his quota. So I've added those. It's more of a personal tribute and also to get the rep that filled his shoes to like, okay, these are not just who we won with, but Steven who killed it. These are who he prospected. And they're a lot of the same titles, but it's how we're morphing and being agile with our battle cards. I want to make sure when people move on, we don't lose their success tips. And so we've like just adding to and customizing our battle cards for each segment.
Totally. So on the left are people that you're prospecting to. On the right are more deeper in the sales process, the people who are actually buying.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. And then IT titles, like I said, we don't really sell to IT folks a great deal. They need to sign off on what we do, but our product, we have a codeless app development platform, and we sell that even a business analyst could make your apps for you, and we read and write back to your current data systems. It's a lot of jargon, but IT, they may or may not be thrilled about that. So the IT makes about 10% of our prospecting. And so when you do prospect, these are who we've had the most success with. Anyone outside of this is just going to be a waste of your prospecting time and a waste of our dollars on our tool set.
Gotcha. Yeah. So when you do get that referral or you do find yourself on the phone with somebody outside of those titles, that there's a lower probability that they're going to turn into something meaningful.
Exactly.
Or if they do, you found something new and now we got to adjust the battle cards.
Exactly. So our goal is to every quarter to every 2 quarters, make adjustments and, okay, what new logos have we added? And are they doing something different that the other ones weren't with these use cases, with these personas that we're selling to? And we can make adjustments. These are all, it's not the prettiest. You can tell it's an Excel form.
Yeah.
But we modify it, and that we want it to be a living document. We want it to be, we can make adjustments at any time. And that's, we're in the middle of phase 4 of this, of our account-based model, where when we first made these battle cards, there was about 4 personas that we were targeting. And this rep, Steven, and another rep and another subvertical have found so much success with one specific persona and use case that we sell, about 4 times greater than the other 3 that were in their arena, that now we're specializing even more. And so we are, it's a bit of a long process to make these battle cards and to find these account lists. But it's worth it, but it takes a while. So we're in process, but all of our 5 sub verticals, we've added a 6th one. We are starting to streamline to, okay, let's go after one persona, 1 to 2 personas, and sell one thing really well. So it's getting even deeper into, okay, we started out, I'm going to go find all of the companies like our customers, because our customers, the people that we've sold to, are the people that we sell best to in the future. It wasn't a mistake that 80% of our customers and 80% of our pipeline were in the same 5 areas. So I'm going to go find other people just like them, and we're going to call them. Now, okay, I've got 4 times as much success selling this use case than I do all of the rest that we've sold into this area. What if we like basically squeeze the orange and like get as much out of that one use case in that one area as we can? And so that's phase 4 for us.
Right on, because you basically want to focus your attention where you have the highest chance of winning.
Yeah, that's really what it's turned into. It's turned from like account based to where do we have exactly that? Where do we have the best chance of winning? And that is where we've won before.
So sorry, I just for the people that aren't watching on the video, can we just take a step back and just maybe a step up a level, I guess, and walk us through what is the format of these battle cards? What's on here, just at a high level here?
Yeah. So if on the battle card, I've got a list of customers, and then if you're looking at it, you can see different highlights and bolds on different cells, and then what I didn't put into this screenshot is I've got a coding system. So the folks in green are your best, like, reference these till the cows come home.
Mm-hmm.
They will hop on a call. They will even do on-sites, need be. The ones in just bold are just kind of one step down from that. And then the rest are good ones. And then the stars they're a special case. They'll help us in certain scenarios. So I've got a list of customers. I've got in the row next to them, I've got some initials. Those are which account reps that they work those. So you know not to say someone's working with this company and they're not. Then in the bulk of it, I've got a baseline pitch that will be for the entire battle card. And then I've got 2 sections of personas and use cases. So I've got quality. Quality is very general, but if you work in the manufacturing space, quality assurance, quality control is a huge chunk of what they do. They don't just make it, they have to make sure it's right. So that's where we fit into. And we help go paperless and identify trends to improve quality departments. So it's a big step for us. So I've got the customers that actually, on this big list of customers, I've got the select few that I want you to reference for this use case. Mm-hmm. So I've got a whole list here, and there's more that aren't on this list. This full list of customers are the best ones to talk about. In
I see.
the arena, these are the 5 that have the best stories. Mm-hmm. For this use case, this persona. Then right next to it, I've got what state they're in. So if you're calling the Pacific Northwest, you should be talking about Yosemite Sam metal forming and Sylvester and Granny trailers.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. This is customer stories. This is written by our account executives. So on the Mickey Mouse helicopters, that AE is really passionate about what they do. And they gave me a lot. And we're hoping to grow these over time so that all of them have a lot for our SDRs to go off of when they're explaining what they do. And then next to that, I've got what titles for that persona. Underneath the customers in the quality persona and their stories is a general why, pain points. Why would they need our apps for quality? Why would they care about what we do? And giving some context in the training format and how to build pitches and how to find pain points with people. Like, why would they want to build a mobile app that will help them go paperless in quality when they already have a QA system, a QA software? Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to tell you why. This is going to explain the problem, the fundamental problem that most manufacturing companies in transportation and aerospace have with their quality systems. And then underneath is the use case, and it's touching on and helping solve these pain points in the previous above section.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Highly recommend if you were that's a ton to take in. If you're listening on your phone, you're walking down the street, driving in your car, pull over, stop, grab the slides, have a look. There's a lot to take in. honestly, maybe wait until you're in front of a computer, because
Mhm.
there's a ton. I don't think this would all fit on your phone,
Yeah,
or you'd be squinting.
it's really small. I wanted to get it all on here. I just spread it into to 2 slides, but it took us a lot of work. But we love having this.
And so these 2 slides, these are actually all one singular battle card. It's not two different ones.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so okay, I got you. And so you've got different sort of use cases and different.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yep.
Great. So
For
now,
transportation aerospace, now we're only prospecting to quality titles and to production titles. You'll see that at the top section there.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So now that you've honed in on your 5 key verticals, you've written battle cards for each of these verticals, which, man, that must have taken you so much time.
Yes.
What's next? Where do you go from here?
Yeah. From here, I actually don't think I have a good slide for it, but this kind of represents the 5 areas that we went after and that we targeted, and were these 5: transportation, machinery, fabricated metals, appliance electrical manufacturers, and concrete and aggregate companies. We had one experiment section, which was construction and material handling companies. So this made up material handling equipment, dealers and rentals, and then electrical contractors. This is our experiment. What's next is that just this week and next week, we are spreading the lift, forklift, and material handling equipment section to its own, and electrical contracting to its own section. So this will become 2 instead of just 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've actually, we're putting a pause on our appliance electrical. So some of our customers have shifted there, and we just haven't, over the last 6 months, haven't seen the same return as we have on the other areas.
And so what we're looking at here, this is your alignment strategy. So you've got your verticals mapped out. You've got 5 of your key verticals. You've got 1 of the experimental vertical. So you're always going to keep testing and iterating.
Yep.
What are we looking at on the bottom half here?
So yeah, this top half, all of that, all of our different verticals. And then this is basically guidance telling everyone, how are we building your account list to match these 6 areas? So we're adding to the account list all customer subsidiary family companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, XYZ company is actually owned by ABC, and ABC is a Fortune 100 company, and they own 200 other companies. So why aren't those on our calling list? We work with their little brother,
Mm-hmm.
So we added all subsidiary companies, and then all nearby competitors. So here, who's nearby that is in the same relative vein of either, fabricated metal manufacturing. And then we added all like companies of their sub segments. And that's where the NAICS codes came in. Mm-hmm. And pulled all those companies. What we'd hypothesize that we do next is find other kind of relative to that segment in those customer cities. So we've got someone in Dayton, Ohio. What other general transportation manufacturers are in Dayton, Ohio? And then what other ones are in that state, and then adding other new customer competitors as we go. And then we've got top use cases. So just highlighting, okay, in these verticals, we're only going to sell about 3 or 4 products to each one. And those products are going to be the top sold use cases for that segment. So in our concrete and aggregate subvertical, we have a sales quoting app that is fantastic. About 80% of our customers in that space, they buy and use sales quoting. And I had initially wondered why they wouldn't use a company like a very highly well-known CRM like we would use. But these are, your blue-collar roughneck guys that aren't going to spend, $1,000 a year per user on this. And so sales quoting for them in the field, taking their Excel forms and mobilizing them for quoting is actually great. When you talk to someone who makes airplanes, one of the top airplane component manufacturers in the world, they already have a great CRM and they don't care about sales quoting at all. So we've been selling the same types of apps and kind of pitching very loosely. And so this is highlighting, okay, whoever owns concrete and aggregate, you're going to sell your top use cases. And actually those are going to be entirely different than your counterpart SDR that's working transportation.
I like that, because then it takes the guesswork out of being an SDR, right? Because as an SDR, you have, you're probably one of the newest, people on the team, likely have the least amount of experience. You don't know the customers as well.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out, okay, in the con ag industry, what should I be leading with, and just, testing yourself, or just coming up with, whatever the guy next to me does.
And that's what's on the battle card. So your battle card for your segment tells you what your use cases are.
Perfect.
And what they do, and then how they differ from the same type of app in another vertical.
Love it. Right. So what's up next year?
So then we started aligning our AEs. So not every AE was going to get everything. We aligned the right handful of AEs with the right segments based off of where their customers were, so that our SDRs could count on having the best introduction and demo calls with the best fitted AEs.
So gotcha. So your AEs are actually, they're now vertical specific?
Yep, they are.
Okay. And
one of the new things that we're doing with in the middle of version 4 that we're doing is that a couple AEs, we're actually going to go one-to-one in about 3 different verticals. So we've got AE specific to 3 of them, and then one-to-one. And we've got one AE that has just killed it. He is the guy to sell to electrical contractors. So he's really the only one that we want. And our goal eventually is to actually have not just a handful of AEs per segment, but actually everyone one-to-one, one SDR, one AE for each vertical. So we're getting there. And why that is, though, is we find that I've got this AE that's really great at selling to electrical contractors. He has the best relationship with our electrical contractor customers. He's grown it, like doubled our customer base there in the last 6 months, just killing it. He doesn't know how to sell to airplane part manufacturers at all. They do completely different things, and bless him, that was an example of like, okay, we put him on a transportation call and it would go okay, but not knock it out of the park. And that's what we need to close business faster and better, is to do every call really well. Because
it's almost a totally different sales process when you're going to a different industry. And I think, like, looking at the battle cards and knowing what the top use cases are and knowing who the best customers are, you can say, hey, I was the AE on selling this, this other to this other customer in your vertical. I actually know the machinery industry fairly well, and you can start to, learn the lingo. Now you're not just personalizing the sales process to each individual customer, but you also get that opportunity to sort of personalize the stories and your experience and your lingo and,
absolutely,
all of your development sort of around that one vertical.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is the next part is where marketing came in. So we did a refresh of our marketing of our website, so that it would actually reflect our kind of top main areas that we focused on. It still had a lot of pieces and parts on the healthcare industry and the oil and gas industry, which we hadn't really hit on for a while. So we kind of cut those areas, created some new landing pages to hit on discrete manufacturers. That was another thing we learned. These top 5 areas all kind of hit on discrete manufacturing versus process. People in food and bev and chemical and pharmaceutical, we hadn't had very many wins there. They usually have a ton of money and they do the same thing over and over and over again, depending on who's ordering. Doesn't really matter. They were not the underserved. We do best selling to the underserved in the area. So we wanted our website to reflect that. We started kind of aligning all of our content. So this demo videos, now spotlights that we do, that was going to be the marketing strategy, and all new content was going to focus on making sure we had enough content for each of these top use cases for each of our top segments, and creating segment specific content for each 6 verticals. And then we created a marketing email drip program that manages all of our outbound email efforts. So we have an email drip program for each persona, each use case, and each industry, sub-industry that we're targeting. So everyone's not getting the same emails. We actually have a drip program specialized for the right person at the right type of company. So we've got about like 30 ongoing drips right now. It's a little bit of it's crazy when you get in there, but it works great.
I don't mean you to take this the wrong way, but do your SDRs have to do any work at all, or do they just show up and make a ton of money?
They do show up and make a ton of money. But they get to be part of the process. We do take feedback seriously, and they get to sell. We wanted to make this so that, so their power, we hire SDRs based on who's the best communicator. So their power is like, they go to the right people, the right company, they get to be really great people communicators and win people over, so all the guesswork is out. So it highlights, one of our vendors, they used to say that we use a agent assisted smart dialer, and basically you only talk to anyone when you actually reach your prospect. And they're like, we amplify the suck. If you are really bad at selling, you're going to know right away. And we've kind of done a lot to form it around that too. Like, we want you to sell, and we're going to make it as easy as possible for you to sell. So if you're not good at selling, we're going to know right away. Yeah.
So let's take me to the selling then. So we've got this is sort of the high level alignment piece. Yeah. Right. We know our 5 verticals. We've got our battle cards. We've got everything sort of aligned. We've got our SDRs, mapped to each of these. What's next here?
Let's see. This is another slide kind of highlighting, we've got a round robin that kind of helps us assign everything, assign every meeting. So we have even assignments for when a segment has 3 AEs assigned to it. Mm-hmm. We have an app that we've built. So we have an app development platform. So we built an app to help us assign, and you just basically go in and it pulls up the person who has the fewest meetings as the first person to assign with, which is really great. We used to be on Excel form, just going round robin. So this ensures that everyone gets the same amount of meetings, and you can't say that they get less meetings than another AE. Mm-hmm. Same. And our account assignments, everyone across the company can see it. All AEs, all SDRs. Again, highlighting just who's in the list. I think a quick piece I'll just highlight on is when we did that big data migration, we found out that actually about 50% of our customers in each segment were under the 500 million mark in revenue, where that had been the lowest cap before. That was actually like about half of our customers in each segment were less than that. And so when we built our new lists, we went based off of our lowest customers kind of median there and went up from there. So that's part of how we built. And then going past some of this. So what's next is we added more parts and pieces on meeting setting. So we're not just appointment setters, but we're really sales people. And so we have to highlight and qualify more. That's what's next. When we started adding these battle cards, to your point, made it a lot easier to know what to do. So that means that we need to qualify better. We need to have more quality meetings. We need to sell more. So this slide here is just pointing out what makes a meeting set. The prospect has to be an ideal customer from our account assignments. Or a subsidiary of one of those accounts. They have to be a title that matches our new ICP, ideal client profile, for that segment. So mm-hmm. There have to be a title on the battle card. You have to have referenced customers. We have to know that they know we work with people like them. You have to have identified pain points and discovered things that resonate with your prospect. And you have to have an identified use case. So we're going to pitch you use cases, but we sell a platform. That's why we have different personas and use cases. You can do so much with our platform. We're going to sell you the things that we have repeated the most, rinse and repeat. But if we find something better that they actually have a need for based on what they're hearing from us, we could sell that too. So we have to have a potential use case identified and discussed that they want to hear more about. They have to have a reason for going to a product demonstration. They have to have a reason for bringing an AE onto the meeting.
Gotcha. Sorry to cut you off there. Just before you go on, I imagine every now and then you get a customer that isn't 100% sure on, exactly what it is that, okay, maybe it's one, maybe it's two, maybe it's the third use case. How much of that decision-making process do you empower the SDRs to make? Is that up to them? Do you have the guidelines so they have to stick to the top three? And if it's not the top three, then, don't turf it to the AE, or, if there's some pain, but they're not quite sure,
Yeah.
how do they solve that?
They have to have both. So this next slide, this is a screenshot of our email
Perfect.
that they have to send to the AE. So they have to tell them everything about the prospect, from their job title to how many years they've been in that job, what location of that company are they in, what are their titles that prospect has had, and then they have to say what pain points were discussed or discovered, what use case was discussed, and what other specific needs about that use case do they have. Then they have to show what segment that this person is in. So sometimes we'll have like follow-ups from old revisions of past industries, and they have to basically guarantee that it's from our account list. And then what's their revenue, what's their location, how many employees do they have, what do they make? So they have to do company research. And then they have to recap the conversation that they've had or past conversations that they've had to explain what they need, and any of their qualifiers. So they can come to the table with a use case that wasn't on the battle card. They can come with that, as long as it's something that makes sense. And we do a lot of training. We do a lot of demos early on with our SDRs, so they know basically, could we make an app out of what that person wants? Yes. Great. We can do that. There's no backwards or forwards on pain point. They have to have them. If there's no pain point, and that was a big part of our third revision, was highlighting how important finding need was. If one of our other theories on why pipeline wasn't closing as fast enough was, or why it wouldn't get very far into the new logo stage, was simply because we hadn't developed the lead early on enough on the SDR end. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take that challenge. We will qualify more for you. And that goes back to the marketing and sales alignment. When we put a lot of our marketing dollars into the sales development team, we're the ones providing the leads to our sales team. And we want them to take our leads seriously, and they want better leads or more leads or both. We're the most agile part of the business. So you say jump, we say how high. And so that's what we did. Anytime I'm told, okay, well, maybe it's because your department's not doing this well enough, we either defend that we are, or we figure out a way to do it better. We've consistently done that over the last couple of years. So we just qualify more. They have to have that because there's no reason to sell them anything or show them a demo if there's no need. And that's what a pain point is. There's need. We haven't found that. If the SDR hasn't found that, then they stay on their call list, or we stop talking to that prospect.
What if they found a need of saying, hey, I want to solve this, but they can't really, the prospect can't really make up their mind on that use case, that, well, what about, would you want to do one or two? And they're like, I don't really know. Then
if they can't agree to a day and a time to meet with us, and that's kind of when that scenario would probably happen, if they're not sure, then it's not a meeting set either.
If they're saying, yeah, I'll meet with you, but I'm not quite sure which use case is best. Maybe it's this, I've got some pain, but maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but I can't decide.
We'd probably put both in that scenario. If they really were willing to meet, they really were interested in either of those things, then I would say that would count. And that's what I'd tell my rep. You've actually identified 2 use cases. And
do they get double comp then?
No.
Why not?
Yes. I'm sure when they're listening to this, they're going to love that.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's all good. We actually have a one per prospect role, and then you can get 2 SALs for a company if they are for different locations or different departments that have no connection with one another.
So you can't be just hitting them up for referrals and then getting them to
his counterpart that wants the same app, then he's actually part of the same project. Yeah. That's definitely been part of the revisions. So of our process. So yeah, and that's where I would just tell the AE if there was two that they wanted, and the AE will then be able to give examples from their customer base. Like, oh yeah, I've got a customer that really wanted this and a customer that really wanted that. And sometimes those things end up where we actually start working on both. When the AEs take it to like a demo and a second demo phase and start talking about project plans, they have a discovery doc, and we actually try to get a handful of use cases. We sell a platform, so we charge by user, concurrent user, and not by per app. So we're actually thrilled when they have lots of ideas of how they want to use our platform. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think last couple of questions, because I know we've covered a lot of ground. We've gone a little bit longer than the half an hour that we shoot for, but this has been great. Lots of really informative.
Good.
I think one of the fears that I've heard people talk about when they move from, the sky is the limit prospecting to more of an account-based focus is I won't have enough people to talk to, right? And, you've cut their list from, thousands and thousands to a few hundred.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how frequently are you sort of touching your existing accounts, and how frequently you're touching the sort of inactive accounts, and what's the difference there?
Yeah. So this was one of my biggest questions actually about a year and a half ago when I was about a year into account-based, and I went to a big, well-known pre-sales conference, and I wanted to meet other people doing account-based, and how do I do this? And got a little bit of advice that kind of helped, and I took it and ran with it. And then most recently, that was at Rainmaker, Sales Loft Rainmaker. This last year, I went to Topo's Sales Summit and met another thought leader at Plex Cloud ERP, and she does a similar model. Their VP of Marketing does a similar model to us. And that was that, like, you should always be re-engaging your prospects. It's not a one and done. So we try to be the most persistent cold callers and cold emailers that you'll ever find. So we have a 25 by 40 rule. That means we're going to make 25 call attempts in 40 days. I'm going to qualify that real quick. So we use, I'm going to go up to our tool funnel real quick. We use a smart dialer. That's an agent assisted dialer. That allows us to make in, a couple hours, a few hundred phone calls, and having, an average of 10 to 15 conversations a day. So with that, we can make a lot of call attempts in there, and basically the agents on the other end are dialing our number for us and acting as our personal assistant during that time. So we'll have like 4 to 5 people dialing at one time. And we have to hit 25 attempts per lead in 40 days. Along with that, those 25 attempts, there's 8 emails being sent on the rep's name and with our email drip systems that I talked about. And they get sent in that 40-day window as well. There's 3 very initial engagement type emails. There's 3 in the first week saying, hey, so-and-so, this is what we do. I think this is why it's relevant. Could we have a call? Then I've got 4 content emails just trying to value add. Hey, we just wrote this blog recently. It looked like something that might be up your alley with your job title. Check it out. Not asking for anything, just trying to add value to their role, their job. And then we've got 1 final straw. Hey, I've tried to email you and call you too many times. Are you still there? So that happens. So 1, we're aggressive. So the people we have with those 300 accounts are actually really important. We try aggressively to reach them. And then I have a quota for each of my reps on how many net new prospects they go find with their companies, and how many re-engaged leads they find with their companies. So and that's about half of their leads, or about a third of their leads, are re-engaged leads. They do twice as many new leads as they do re-engage, but every sprint, so every half month, they need to go through our CRM and find people that haven't been touched in at least 90 days by them or by another rep at that company. They need to go basically shop our CRM for leads to go hit and prospect again. So unless that company is a customer, unless that prospect is an SAL, we aren't done yet. So we should still go and try to get that person. And we rewrite our emails and refresh our language every quarter, so they won't get the same email twice. And we're getting better and better at what we do. So we'll always be getting better at our messaging.
Gotcha. So to sum up, it's that you're doing 25 touches in a quarter, or sorry, in 40 days. You're doing eight email touches, and then you'll touch them as frequently as every 90 days.
Yeah.
For infinity. So if you get one of Kim's SDRs tracking you down, you better pick up the phone.
Yes. And it's where we hire good communicators. When I cold call, I think every sales development leader should know how to cold call. But I've gotten that, like, Kim, you've called me 15 times in the last 3 weeks. It better be important. I'm going to give you more than 30 seconds. I'm going to give you 10 minutes of my time, because it must be so important that you called me that many times. And of course, they're trying to be strong and tough and let me have it. But I'm like, great. It is really important. I'm so excited to talk to you. And now I've got 10 minutes of your time. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In reality, they're just, okay, I'm going to give you some time just to have this conversation, so you'll leave me alone.
That specific example, I did get a sales accepted lead, because it's all about communicating well and making people your best friend. If you're going to call them 10 million times, you better be the nicest person in the world they talk to you that day. And
you better have a good reason and have something valuable to say once you do get on the phone. And I think that sort of ties it really nicely into the battle cards.
Exactly. Yep. It all comes together.
All comes together. Kim, I think that's a great place to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing everything that you've done. Maybe not everything. I think a small slice of everything you've done. Because if I think I know you, I think we've only scratched the surface. But
yes.
Thank you again.
And I would just end with this. I could go so much more specific. There's so many other things I'm sure I could have shared with this, but if there's other sales development and marketing leaders that, like, right here, I've got kind of a grayed out tool funnel, or they want to know more specifics, please reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you, and like, we get smarter together. I haven't figured it all out, but I figured a few things out. I'd love to share them more specifically with you and learn from you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we'll put a way of reaching Kim in the show notes. So check that out.
Cool.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time.